I'm glad that I've never been abducted and hunted for sport.
You can say that here.
When you put enough crazy, shitty facts together, you can make people believe anything you want.
Yes, I am ready to talk about Dahmer, the show, the man, the legend, why women are so attracted to him. I don't know, all of it.
Do you know when he was in prison, he collected $12,000 worth of donation? A man that had got like, I don't know how many, 17 life sentences or something, collected $12,000 with people just sending him money. It's just crazy, right?
Yeah,
What is our fascination with serial killers?
it's not I think it's mostly women.
No, come on. You're not. I mean, look at the movie Dahmer on Netflix right now.
Yep.
I mean, it's like one of the top watch shows. You're going to tell me those are all women watching Dahmer?
I don't know, but that's what the Netflix people seem to think.
Is that a true statement?
Yeah.
That it's mostly women that
And
watch serial?
I don't know if anyone's studying this yet, but anecdotally, one of the Netflix guys was on Rogan and he's like, yeah, it's, we don't understand it exactly, the psychology of it, but it's mostly women watching these true crime and murder shows.
How's that? Can you hear me better now?
I barely recognized you.
I was saying I read this article in Psychology Today, and it was about morbid curiosity. And it said, we as humans kind of, and I guess maybe as women, maybe to your point about women being more interested, we want to understand what we can't understand, right? So a serial killer is something that just doesn't make sense to us. So therefore, we want to study the behaviors and learn about what it is. So in this weird way, we can kind of protect ourselves from, we can identify these serial killers and kind of avoid them and protect ourselves. It's kind of like our inherent animalistic instinct.
Do you think that that avoidance is the key? I think for some people you're probably spot on, but do you think maybe there's a sexual component to it for some women? They wouldn't admit to it, but do you think there is one?
Oh my God, I cannot even imagine that. Like
Well,
that. I don't, it's a hard no for me, Andrew Levac.
women were throwing themselves at Richard Ramirez. One of the jurors actually had to be excused in his trial because she fell in love with him, and she
Huh.
continued to have a relationship with him after he was convicted and put in jail. And he, like, some woman married him while he was in jail. I don't know. I don't hear too much about Dahmer, but I'm sure women were throwing themselves at him too. Not all
Well, he
women,
got
just some.
$12,000. John Wayne Gacy, you know the story of him. Like if you write to him in prison, you get a questionnaire. I don't even know if he's still alive anymore,
No,
but
he's dead. He's
he's
long
dead.
since dead.
So you'd get a questionnaire back in the mail vetting you to make sure you're worthy of corresponding with him.
Well, he must have had a lot of people that were interested in him. I do think there's a fascination. I also think for a lot of women, there's a sexual component to it. I think women are attracted to this in a way they don't understand, that no one understands, and they're into it. Like there's got to be something more than just, oh, I want to protect myself so I don't meet one of these people accidentally.
I, that's fascinating because I'm kind of fascinated, but I never think of like, so I started watching Jeffrey Dahmer. I'm like almost through. So, but I'm like, I don't watch it because I feel like I'm protecting myself from this guy. I feel like there's this other, let me remind myself, there's this, what the heck is the name of this book? There was a book written and they said, the real thing is that it's like a car crash. We just can't look away. There's this fascination with what we don't know. And I think that kind of aligns with more of who I am. We
Yeah.
were at dinner last night with some friends, and one we didn't really know very well, and she read Beachside Mafia, one of my books, and she said, "Colleen, I have so much insight into who you are." And I'm like, first, that character is not me, you know. But second, she was fascinated by like, what do you know about the mafia? How did you get into the like, do you know people? Like, what your last name's Ferrari? That must mean something. And I'm like, no, but I am. You know this. I'm fascinated by organized crime. I have no idea why, but I can't turn away from anything having to do with the mafia.
Mm.
However, how could I be mistaken for this character, Bria Briganti? I just can't figure that out.
Well,
Although the Bria
there's-
Briganti sleeps around, and drinks a lot, and I guess that, that must be my MO.
that's everybody though. That's not just you. Everybody sleeps around and drinks too much.
Oh, I love your generalizations today. It's only women who follow serial
I did
killers.
not
It's
say that.
everybody.
I did
Not
not say it.
only, you did not say only.
I said primarily women, and it's not. And again, I said that's not me saying that. That's what the people at Netflix obviously understand about their audience.
So, okay, we got to talk about you're watching Dahmer, right, on Netflix?
I am, yeah. I'm not. I have not completed it yet, but I do have a lot. I had already known a bit about that. That happened during our lifetime. So
Yeah, like so it was 94 he was killed, right?
yeah, 93 he
17
was
murder.
baptized. So I guess he got to go to heaven.
I read that myself and I was like, I wonder what Allie would say about that.
Well, if he killed 17 boys and then repented and had a personal relationship with Jesus, that's punching your golden ticket.
Well, there's this thing that's interesting that the dad says that he got this from me because I've always wanted to murder and devour people or something. Now, I heard that from the movie, but I haven't found any evidence of that anywhere.
What, that he got it from the dad? Well, I don't think the dad ever murdered and devoured anyone.
No, he didn't, but he said those thoughts have run through his head.
Well, I mean, we all have these impulsive thoughts. I mean, this is what Carl Jung called the shadow, right? The dark side of ourself. And if you listen to modern psychologist Jordan Peterson talk about Jung's work, he says, and you have to understand that part of yourself. You have to embrace the fact that you are, in fact, dangerous. And until you do that, until you understand that you are dangerous, you can't you can't be trusted. So I don't know what that has to do with Dahmer exactly, but there's this psychology there that we just don't understand at all about these folks. And I personally think that there's more of a genetic component than a lot of people do. I think it's way more heavy on the you're born this way. I know Dahmer thought he was born that way.
He did. So I have to go back to this Jung thing. And do you believe that everybody has a side of them that's dangerous?
Of course I do. Yes, I do. 100%.
I might agree with that. I guess I'm kind of now all of a sudden I'm looking into my own psyche. Is there a piece of me there's a piece of me that wants to be dangerous that thinks, oh man, like,
Yeah, but
but I
we
could
don't
never
act it
even
out.
imagine applying it and maybe that's what Bria Briganti is in this book. It's like she's this dangerous side of me. She lives this life that I could never imagine living.
Is she sociopathic in some way? Like she lacks empathy for others? She
In the beginning, but she becomes the heroine, but she goes through the arc of character change and evolution.
Yeah. I mean, we love these characters that are that are dangerous people and do bad things. We love anti-heroes because they do bad things, but they do have this strict moral code that they adhere to. And there's certain things they won't do. It's like you could be this mafia assassin, but you won't kill women or kids. You'll kill hundreds of men on command for no reason other than they pissed off your boss, but you won't kill women or kids.
So do you remember the serial killer Little Petey?
No.
Actually, he's I think he's still alive, but he's from Brazil. He killed 40 people, but it was these revenge deaths, like the gang members that killed his wife, the
you talking about Pedro Lopez? Guy from
Is
Colombia?
that his real name? So he's free, right? He's a YouTuber now, right?
What?
I mean, it's crazy.
Can't
He's a
be the same guy.
YouTuber and a ranch hand or something. They let him out of jail. So he went in for some petty crime, apparently. Maybe I have this story a little bit off, but he went into this Brazilian prison for this petty crime just to seek revenge on the gang that killed his wife. And then his dad killed his mother. So he also killed his dad. So he got 30 years. But you can go into the prison by some weird prison law, and the crimes that you commit in prison don't extend your sentence.
I got to tell you, I'm so fascinated with what's going on in Brazil. Like with this is right in that wheelhouse. It's a total digression, but remind me to get to it. They've passed a law allowing vigilante justice, and the YouTube videos are sensational. It's one of the most amazing things to watch on the internet right now.
Didn't they do that in Thailand too, right? Vigilante justice. Like you can go if you caught somebody killing somebody, you could kill them. Like
Well,
an
if
eye
you
for an
could
eye or
in Brazil, I don't know about I didn't hear about the Thailand one, but in Brazil, you're literally allowed to kill someone if they're trying to rob someone else. So if I see you getting your purse snatched, I'm allowed to run the robber over with my car.
wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it explains why little Petey is a hero. He's like this vigilante. I'm like, how has there not been a movie made about this
Well,
guy?
we're not
But can
talking
you
about the same
imagine?
person. Sorry.
No.
No, go ahead. Go
So
ahead.
can you imagine like driving down the street and seeing somebody rob someone and hitting them with your car? I don't know if
Yes.
I could actually, I can envision it, but I guess this is to Young's theory. I can envision it, but I couldn't imagine doing it.
I don't know. It's like a purge type of situation they've got going on down there where somebody who might not ever commit any other crime is perfectly capable of running over a person because they're hurting someone else. Even if it's just a property crime, you're allowed to run somebody over. I just I find it wild. I haven't really thought it all the way through. Like I don't really have like a fully formed opinion on whether it's good or bad, but I'm pretty sure it's bad. But the situation has gotten so bad there with the crime that I don't know. It's one
Well,
possible solution.
I will tell you, I was fifth grade and I had a friend who was being bullied by this boy. And so we're getting off the bus, and he was such a jerk to her that I actually took him and slammed him against the wall and threatened his life. And the bus driver saw it. And, I got pulled into the principal's office, all the stuff. And my mom, was called, and they applauded me for beating up, or, so to speak, beating up this boy who I slammed against the wall. So I guess it's in you. I've tempered it over the years, but
Yeah,
so
I
watch
mean,
out, Levesque.
no, I know I'm on notice, but we were we were digressing. We were talking about two different people before. I don't know. I never heard of Little Petey, but they're the most prolific serial killer they think of all time. Is also based in South America. It's a guy named Pedro Lopez, and he's credited with over 300 murders. They put him in jail for
Holy moly.
yeah. They put him in jail, but then he got out after 12 years for good behavior.
What?
Yeah.
Well, how about that guy that was a serial killer that was caught in France, killed all these people, claimed insanity. He was put into a Japanese insane asylum, like deemed sane and recovered and let free, and they still don't know where the guy is.
Yeah. Well, Pedro Lopez killed somebody else in 2020 in 2002, and they haven't found him since. And he may be killing many, many more people.
How do we let people like that out of jail?
Well, we don't. They did in South America.
Maybe they said, hey, we'll let you go if you go get all those pickpocketers.
Or maybe he said, he had a personal relationship with Jesus and that was good enough for them.
I think about this is so bad. So not right.
What I just said?
Yeah, I'm just moving on.
Well, no, they're
So
very religious down there was my point.
I want to dig into like one more like so Pee Wee Gaskins. Do you remember him? Like the North Carolina guy who drove a hearse?
No.
So this guy drove around.
Did you get into a pee-wee rabbit hole?
Yeah, I don't know, little Pee Wee Gaskins. I don't know. I was pulling up stuff like around Jeffrey Dahmer and cannibalism and all this stuff came up and I was just like engrossed for hours. So Pee Wee Gaskins drove a hearse and on the back of the hearse it said, I haul dead people. And people would ask him about the hearse and he said he needs a hearse to take the bodies of the people he killed to his private cemetery. And so he basically was telling everybody that he was killing people,
Yeah.
and nobody took him seriously. Like, this is awful.
Yeah, with a lot of them, it seems like at some point they just want to get caught. They don't under like Dahmer. I didn't get to the point in the show where he'd already been caught. Except, well, I mean, the first episode starts, he gets caught, right? But I didn't get to the point where he's being interviewed by the cops yet, thoroughly. They've just started that, but he did this really intense interview with this psychiatrist. I'm sure you know this part of the story, but he wanted to know why he was the way he was. He like getting caught for him was almost a relief, not because he felt guilt, but because he wasn't getting anywhere with his journey towards self-actualization.
So what's interesting, so he was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, schizotypal personality disorder, and psychotic disorder. But the crazy thing is they deemed him sane at the point of his trial. But there was some strange, like, he did terrible in school, but he was incredibly intuitive about who he was. Like, when they found all the bones of his first victim, like, he dug all these little holes and separated the bones and buried them all over the yard. They're like, why did you do this? Like, what made you do this? He goes, I guess I just wanted them to be around me. So then, you dig deeper and you say, well, why, and I guess this is common with people who are cannibalists. Is that a word? Cannibals?
I think just cannibals, yeah.
Cannibals. So this is common for cannibals, that there's this separation anxiety. So if you look at Jeffrey Dahmer's life, his family they were in the middle of this divorce. His mom and brother left. His dad left for big gaps of time. Like, people left him. And they say that one of the profiles of a serial killer is they have this separation anxiety. And so it's really about helping, like, for them, cannibalism is about abandonment. So if they eat it, they put the body, even that comment, like, I guess I really just wanted them to still be around. He took pictures. He kept the bodies, heads in his freezers, genitalia. It's just so crazy, but they believe it was his way. He didn't want to let people go. He wanted them to stay.
Yeah. I mean, well, one of the like the defining characteristic of borderline personality disorder is like abandonment issues, right? They say that I used to work in a psychiatric facility, and we dealt with a lot of usually women. That men were almost never diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. It's very, very rare that they get diagnosed that way. Not that they don't have those traits, but it's just maybe it's a gender disparity or the patriarchy at work or something. But it's usually there's no way to really cure this thing. Like, you don't even learn how to deal with it. It's very there's something really broken about these people. And they where I came, the people that I worked with that were clinical psychologists and used to say that it was incomplete bonding with the mother, or mother left at too young of an age. They blame the mother for all this. So like if baby, C-section babies that weren't breastfed, that kind of stuff. So incomplete bond with mother.
So here's the thing so I remember going through that trial and being a kid and watching all this, and it was Jeffrey Dahmer's lack of empathy that got us, right? That was the creepiest part. I mean, yeah, it's creepy that he was eating his victims, all of that, but there was this lack of empathy that really sent these chills up and down your spine. Like, there was none, right?
His
But
truthfulness, his true, like how truthful he was, and everybody knew. What you go
yes,
back and watch those tapes, that man is telling the truth about himself. He did
yes,
not feel guilty. He didn't
yes.
feel bad for the victims at all. He thought he deserved, like, what he did because it was the right thing to do in his mind.
Well, hold on, but I have an argument to that, because two things kind of came up to me that create an argument around empathy. So the first one was his stepmother said that he didn't wear his glasses during the trial
Well,
because he didn't want to see the faces of the people.
yeah, it was a bother to him.
So
Not because it made him sad, but because it was a bother to him.
so you don't think there was sadness involved or like remorse
I think,
involved, and that's why he didn't want to look? You think it was
well,
just inconvenient?
my crackpot $2 psychiatric take on it is that he knew he was supposed to feel bad, but he didn't. And so it was this torment that he was feeling because he knew he wanted to be a certain way and he wasn't that way. Maybe. I don't know.
The other thing, this is a little not funny, but kind of one of those aha moments. The other thing, he admitted to needing to be drunk and drinking beer in order to actually kill his victims. So, the victims' families actually tried to sue Budweiser
Yeah, of course.
and hold them accountable because they encouraged him to get drunk. And if he didn't get drunk, he wouldn't have killed their loved ones, was the argument.
Yeah, I mean,
But needing alcohol to do that, to kill somebody, I don't know. What's that all about?
he went 9 years without killing anybody. He went 9 years controlling this impulse. He said he still had the impulse. Like he still wanted to do it, but he didn't do it for 9 years.
So here's a question. I mean, we all ask this, right? Are serial killers born or made? And it's interesting. They were going through, there was this awful mass shooting. These 5 people were killed on this cul-de-sac in North Carolina this week. And it's awful. And so they started, I saw this really interesting article that said there's a list of mass shooters who have seen psychiatrists and received the standard of care and then have gone out and still murdered all of these people.
Yeah.
And the question is, are we well equipped to handle mental illness as we should be? Or, are we just not taking this seriously? Are these moments where we fail? Like I didn't even know Jeffrey Dahmer, based on the book, I had no idea he had any friends. But apparently there's this guy, Durf, that was his childhood friend. Did you hear about Durf?
Yeah. Well, there's been so many movies and like My Friend Dahmer was another one.
Yeah, that's his comic strip was about that. My friend Dahmer was based on his comic book that he
Yeah.
wrote, right? But he said, Durf said, it's a book about failure. Everybody failed him. His parents, his teachers, his friends, the administration, the cops, and even Jeff himself.
I think it's much scarier to think that these people are born and that they walk among us. It's much scarier to think that than to think that there's some behavioral thing we can do that will prevent this from ever happening again. I mean, I think a lot of us want to think of murder is like the flu, and you can, get it's like cancer. You can completely get it out of human society. Like you can cure it. Murder is not something, murder is not something that can be cured. It's always, as long as there's been people, human beings, there's been murder, what we call murder. There's got to be a huge genetic component to this. And I think there's a genetic component to why women are attracted to it too.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was that said that he would bring these teenage girls out into the woods, and when they caught him, he said it just made me feel like I was alive and like an animal. I was in touch with my animal self. I felt like a
Yeah.
wolf.
Was that
But then there's a also guy, remember Robert Hansen. I'm so
yeah,
sorry.
that's the guy. Robert Hansen was the guy that hunted women for sport.
Yes,
Yeah, he was
catch
fucking,
them, release them in the Alaskan wilderness. Oh my God.
that guy was broken. I mean, they're
I'd get
all
away. Would you get away?
me, probably not.
Alaskan wilderness. You're kind of,
Oh, I
you're one
mean,
with the earth. I mean, you could escape Robert Hansen.
I don't know. I'd probably escape him just to get eaten by a grizzly bear. I'm not lucky like that. I'm glad that I've never been abducted and hunted for sport. It's one of my, I get every Thanksgiving, I make sure that I say that at the dinner table.
Oh my gosh. So luck is a whole nother conversation, right? Whether you believe you're lucky or not. Somebody just sent me an email about, he said, success is based on luck. And I believe it's based on luck and talent. But anyway, we digress. Like, let's born or made serial killers. What are
I
you?
think they're mostly born. I think that there's a predisposition maybe it's lizard people. I don't know. But you're born with a certain predisposition, and then if the conditions are met within a range of outcomes, then you can do horrible things. There's people that never do what Jeffrey Dahmer did, that have worse, objectively worse conditions that they grow up in. So he was a middle class kid whose parents had a nasty divorce. Gee, there aren't many of those people walking around.
Well, they do frame it up as you're watching this. So there's some question where it really is kind of a born or made kind of documentary or
Yeah.
whatever. Because they start with the mother. The mother had mental illness. She's chasing space aliens in the middle of the night. Like
Was she
like,
mentally ill or was she spot on?
oh, she might have been spot on, but
Mm-hmm.
back in the 70s,
Yeah.
pretty much. But she also, like, she took, there's a scene at the doctor where she took like 53 pills a day
Yeah.
during her pregnancy,
Yeah.
or,
I'm sure.
or whatever that number is. So they tee it up. So you're like, okay, then Jeffrey Dahmer, like, as a 6-year-old finds her, like, she tries to kill herself. There's all these things: this bad divorce, the
But
separation, the abandonment. Like, it's kind of a perfect storm of, like, if you weren't crazy to start with, we're going to make you crazy.
the father blamed it on he had an operation when he was a kid, right? And he said they over anesthetized him, and that might have done something to his brain. That was one working theory on him, that how he was made. But he,
The dad he said that many times. He
yeah,
stuck to that. He's like, he was different that day.
yeah, he was different when he was done. He was not the same kid, and that may well be true. But there's a switch somewhere that gets flipped when a certain condition is met in your environment. But I don't think everybody is born with that switch. I think there's many, many, many people that have been through childhood trauma that do not become serial killers. So he's the exception to the rule, in my opinion. So there's some other predisposition, there's some other component to it that's not environmental.
I think about these football players, right? It's all over the news right now with this traumatic brain injury. And so, traumatic brain injury, TBI, it increases aggression by 35 to 90%
Yeah.
in range of violence, just not only aggression, but violence. And so they're saying many of these serial killers had TBI.
Yeah, I don't know. Is that true? I didn't hear that.
There's this there's tons of arguments. I mean, whatever you want to look for, you can find. But they're also, like, they study the brains of these serial killers, and they look at the prefrontal cortex, like, which it controls empathy and forethought, judgment. So, and they're seeing, like, higher levels of activities in some serial killers and some different activity than you see in a normal human, a non-killing, who's normal, a non-killing individual.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you wonder who the control group is in that study, but I don't. I remember studying the strange case of Phineas Gage when we were in college. Remember that?
I remember it, but I can't remember it. I can
So
remember doing it. I just can't remember the story. Remind me.
he was a railroad worker, and there was an accident with an explosive, and he ended up getting an iron rod flew through his brain. It entered through his eye socket and exited through the top of his head. But he survived. He lived. Everybody thought he was going to die, but he lived. And when he recovered, he was never the same. Obviously, he'd had some sort of a lobotomy, not a very precise one, but they said he was very aggressive and angry after that, and he got more and more angry as time went on. So I don't know.
Was it because of his brain altered, or because of the severe headache he probably lived with?
I can't imagine, but I know they used to give people lobotomies, which they would just scramble part of your brain with a needle, and that would make you more docile.
I have you ever had, like, severe pain? Like, there's some people I know that have been in tragic car accidents and they survive, but they're just in incredible pain. I had back pain, lasted like a whole week, and it took everything I could to be, and that's with medication, everything I could to be civil. I'm like, living with pain may be the hardest thing anybody ever has to do.
Yeah, I cut my thumb off once.
I remember that.
Yeah, I mean, it grew back, but morphine was the reason I was nice to everybody.
Wait. It grew back, please. I
Yeah,
thought it was reattached.
no, it grew back. See, look, it's there. You
You're
can
like you are a lizard person.
maybe probably have some of the DNA. I mean, they talk about lizard brains, but they never go the full distance and say, well, some of us are part lizard.
Completely explains your fascination with lizard people.
Oh, they're real.
Now, I don't know if I can turn away from this topic. I think we have to say until next week. We
Yeah.
need to talk about aliens and lizard people. Your favorite, you've been dying to talk about that since we started
Well,
this.
no, I don't really want to go too far into it because I'm sure they're listening. I will say that there's just in the last couple of years, my thinking on this topic has really changed. And I know we're talking about serial killers, but I think that most serial killers probably have a lot of lizard DNA. And you know, pre-COVID, I was about 0% that lizard people could be real. Now I'm somewhere between 95 and 100%. I don't know exactly what form it takes, but it's lizards.
Can you tell me exactly what a lizard person is?
A reptoid, like
Give me more. Give me more. Are they
uh
walking the earth? They look like
yeah,
you and me,
yeah,
but
they look just
they
like you
grow
and me.
back thumbs.
Well, maybe. No, I didn't actually grow back my thumb. You know that. It didn't grow back. I had the best hand surgeon in the world, a guy named Dr. Joseph Slade, orthopedist at Yale, and he sewed my thumb back on. Actually gave me a cadaver bone. I have a dead person's metacarpal.
Really?
Yep.
Does it change anything about you having somebody else's body part, being a donor recipient?
Well, I couldn't play the piano before I had thumb surgery, but now I'm really good at it. I don't know what the hell happened.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Can you look up who gave you the thumb?
Well, it was around the time that Ray Charles died, so I'm thinking.
Hey, we never started the podcast, and it's probably time to end it.
Welcome to You Can Say That Here, where just because we should say things doesn't mean we can, or the other way around. Wait a minute. Just because we can say things doesn't mean we should. But we do anyway, and there's no repercussions. The end.
Bam. I think we end it right there. That was a quick half hour, right?
Yeah, it was about 35 minutes.
I thought it was interesting.
Yeah. You want to do a half hour now?
I mean, I think we just let it flow, baby. Whatever it is, it is.
That's up to you. I'm good. Half hour's good.
I mean, if it goes to 45, like I got nothing else to say. Except, did you know that Jeffrey Dahmer never killed anybody with a tattoo because he said tattoos made the flesh taste weird?
Is that right? I did not know that.
He also like fried up some guy's arm and in oil and olive oil and said it tastes like filet mignon.
Apparently, he fed one of his neighbors some food that she suspects was human meat, but didn't know at the time.
Come on, his neighbors are the whole reason he got caught. Which one of those neighbors was actually going to take a meal from Jeffrey Dahmer?
That's the really bizarre thing. Like, this could never ever happen again because everybody's seen all these shows. Now, the minute they smell that smell, they're going to be like calling the cops. You know, somebody actually, there's a power outage and somebody does have some rotten chicken, then they're calling the FBI and they're, you know, there's going to be an overcorrection. I think it's funny because where did all the serial killers go?
Well, we obviously don't know where they are. We'd be arresting them, right? I'm sure there's plenty out there still. They don't
There's
disappear. Now they're mass shooters.
mass shooters now. Yeah, they've been converted, but there's no like serial killers on the loose. Maybe there are, but they don't publicize it anymore.
Yeah. Well, like that guy that got out of the insane asylum in Japan as sane, like they do publicize that. He's never been found. He's kind of on the loose.
I'm amazed that the CIA is not using this for more ops. Like, oh, they need to keep people inside in New York City in the late 70s. So what do, Son of Sam? Right? Government employee.
Not that Son of Sam was fake.
No, he killed people. He made up all that stuff about the dog talking to him, though.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
How about Ted Bundy? I didn't know this. He actually worked at a suicide hotline center.
Yeah, that's fucked up, isn't it?
Isn't it crazy?
It's so crazy. These people are so incredibly broken. Like that's what's fascinating, I think, to a lot of people, is how can someone even think this way? Like they do this. Maybe that was the obsession with Tiger King too. Like people not like you and me. We want to
Yeah.
peer into their psyche, be like, how could somebody do this? Like, why?
See, I don't think it's the morbid curiosity. I really believe it's like, what makes that person tick? Like, I just don't get it. It's so different.
Yeah.
So I have to ask you, is a mafiosa, organized crime, are they serial killers?
Um, well, I mean, there's legal
Or
definitions, and then like, are they killers? Yeah, some of them are. Some of them kill, some, but maybe they just are able to live with that shit on their soul like a normal person, but they're
but
not.
they kill 7, 8, 12 people.
No one knows how many. I
Well, go ahead.
they got to, something's got to be missing, right? There's got to be only so many people can do that kind of work.
Well, you have snipers, you have people who kill for good, you have people, I don't know. I don't know. Like it's kind of crazy. And then when you look at organized crime, a lot of that is like it's self-governance. I remember I was living in Chicago and I was with some Chicago cops at one of the stores I was in, and they were like, we don't want to go to the South Side because we're just going to let them kill each other off. It's kind of self-governance, and
Yeah,
we have less to worry about, and they, take care of themselves. What a horrible thought,
yeah.
but
Well, I think it probably gets easier after your first one.
I would imagine. I've done that before. I mean, that's what I learned from all the movies, the action movies. Somebody has their first kill and they're all shaken up, and then all of a sudden somebody comes in the door to the right and they go bam. They don't even think.
Yeah, so just killing everybody after that.
I got nothing. I hope I never find out. I
I know.
never accidentally, I hope that never ever happens in my lifetime. I never
Yeah,
accidentally kill someone and then it gets easier.
I walk.
Although I've killed a lot of people in my books.
That's true. You're right about it. I have I walk around with the belief that I could kill someone in self-defense without hesitation. I walk around with that belief, but I don't know if it's true, and I hope I never find out.
Yeah, I don't even know in self-defense if I'd have it in me. It's kind of a funny thing. Like it's still hurting another human being. I know in a particular event I didn't do what I should have hurt or could have done in that moment. Like I could have been violent and gotten away and I didn't.
Some people, you play these. Maybe this is just me, or I think I talk about this with my male friends sometimes. It's like you play these scenarios out in your head, but it's not until it happens, you don't know how you're going to really react, you know?
I can tell you somebody came after my kid. There's no question what length I would go. I wouldn't even have to think about.
Yeah, no, I'm the
It
same
wouldn't
way.
even there's no I've seen things happen in the past where I like jump out and I'm not even thinking. And I just do something really stupid because it's all about protecting her. My life is second.
Yeah, it's like I have to control the impulse to murder people that are mean to my kid.
Oh my God, wait till she starts dating.
Oh,
Jung, where are you now? Do you have a book to counteract this before his daughter starts dating? Come on back. Tell us a little story.
yeah, I don't know.
All those psychologists or psychiatrists out there listening, can you please give us some advice because you could be saving young men's
We
lives.
clearly are non-experts in this field, and we need your guidance. Oh wise ones.
So you believe that you can take somebody like Jeffrey Dahmer and rehabilitate him?
No,
Yeah, I don't think either. I think sometimes people are just so broken.
I don't
But
think
if
you can
somebody
even
came to you,
fix. I don't think you can fix a borderline. They may find enough workarounds where they can function in society, but I don't. They still suffer. They're still tortured.
Huh. I wonder what would have happened if remember Jeffrey Dahmer was in the movie, he was about to confess to his dad after he killed his first victim. He
Yeah,
said
and
it
his
was
dad didn't
really
want to hear
terrible.
it.
Yeah, it's like, did his dad know? Like, what was that all about? So he's about to confess. What would have happened at that moment if he got help and said, I did this by accident. I think about it all the time. I need help.
I don't know. I mean, it's impossible to say, but I think left to his own devices, he was always going to do what he did.
Oh, it's just tragic. Those poor families. So,
Yeah, yeah.
now like that's the big hubbub is that Netflix didn't ask anyone's permission. So they released this movie and none of the families, the victims' families, had expected it. And so there's this one story about this young woman who was on the stand during the trial. Jeffrey Dahmer had killed her brother. And she turns on the TV and she said, I heard this little clip of her and she said, and all of a sudden it was there. I was there on the
Oh, it
screen,
was.
transported back in time.
I
My
watched.
words.
Yeah, yeah. I watched the actual video of her from the trial, and then the Netflix reenaction of it, and it's like watching a mirror image. It's so close. They copied it so closely.
Oh my gosh. I
Mm,
can't even imagine.
right, but I mean, at this point, the market is so saturated with Dahmer stuff, and it's all public record. Like what happened in that trial is public record. So I don't think she's got any recourse. It sucks, but I don't think she's got
Yeah.
any recourse.
So we're kind of adding to the problem, but I was curious because I saw her say that. I'm like, this isn't, I remembered my friend Dahmer, and I was like, I wonder how many people and how much has been made on this topic. There are 5 movies about Jeffrey Dahmer, 7 books, 16 television programs, and 2 plays about Jeffrey Dahmer.
Well, it's because he was a serial murdering necrophiliac cannibal. There aren't too many of those around, thank God.
And now one podcast,
And
or
now
probably one of a thousand
I'm sure
podcasts that have been made.
10,000 podcasts probably. Yeah.
But it's just so sad. So, I think we listen too to say, how do we not raise, how do we make sure we raise our kids right? How do we make sure that we spot problems? And that's so true. Like, remember in Newtown when Sandy Hook happened,
Yeah.
the all we thought is, how could that mother was worried about her son, right? She had sent him to get therapy and he ended up killing her and all of these children. It's this most one of the world's most tragic events that has ever happened. And okay, but that's arguably
Horrible event. Let's
horrible.
agree with that. Yeah. It's not a contest, but there's been plenty of atrocities to go around.
But as a parent, you just look at that and you say, what did she miss? What could she have done differently? Could I don't think my child's a serial killer or a murderer, mass murderer, but did she really think that? Like, did the parents know? Like this young boy, 15-year-old boy who killed his brother and 4 other people, like the dad seemed like this great guy who like worked in town, a handyman. Like, I mean, who knows? But you're like, one, he just lost both of his sons. But could he have done anything different? Should he have seen something? I think as parents, we always have that conversation in our head. How do we recognize when something goes wrong with our children and we need to intervene, or if we should?
It
And
must
how blind are we?
it must be much worse to know that your child has murdered 17 people and raped their corpses and eaten them than it would be like if your child died in a car accident. It must be much worse. Like, what could I have done? I could have taught him to drive better. Oh no. But then the other one's like, what the hell could I like? Which one of 1,500 times did I go wrong? Like, how is that? That's got to be much worse to try to live with that your child did something so antisocial that you will never know what went wrong.
Well, remember when they got the call that Jeffrey Dahmer's dad gets a call from the police and he said something to the effect of, what has Jeffrey done now? And you're
Yeah.
just like, there's
Oh,
in your heart. I mean, he had an assault right? He'd been arrested for assault and drunk driving. So that's clearly where his head was.
You know, he was you know, he didn't fit in anywhere. He was in and out of trouble. He was weird. And even his father said he was weird. He was a weird kid. There was something wrong with him, something off with him. And you know, you could the dangerous part is if we try to wipe this out, we say, "Oh, we don't want this to ever happen again." To what lengths are you willing to go to make that a reality? So are we now going to dig into people's DNA and look for the gene? And then if somebody's born with that gene, if we can't fix it, then we just lock them up preemptively? Do we, you know, is it like this science fiction story called Minority Report where they have these psychics that are, you know, they call it pre-crime. So they know when someone's about to commit a crime and then they arrest them ahead of time, right? So like, is that where are we going?
Yeah. How can you arrest an innocent person? Like his dad, for example, said, I've struggled with these thoughts my whole life. I never acted on them.
Right. He would have been in jail.
Right. So, I mean, but he, you know, inherently, I want to believe that maybe his dad was troubled, but he was a good human being.
Maybe just a bad dad.
I don't know. I go back to this whole thing. Like, I really believe the key is in high school. Like, so in, you know, my friend Dahmer, remember Jeff was kind of like, he got weirder as he got older, right? But when he was in high school, he was a loner and he was always trying to fit in and always trying to find that friend. And I just believe that's the answer. I just want to save the world and I want to, you know, start in high school. If we can figure out how to help the loners that don't feel like they belong.
Yeah, we tend to ship them off. We tend to send them to other places and ostracize them even further. I don't know. I don't think.
Or we try to protect them from being hurt more, but that still doesn't give them a sense of belonging. We say, okay, you can't bully this kid anymore. So, but the kid is still isolated, alone, and he may not be being bullied, but he has no real connections, or she have no real connections, no home, no belonging. I mean, it does seem like a common thread between every point of gun violence, every serial killer. Although, how do you explain Charles Manson?
Manson's a whole different ball of wax. He's not like the other boys. Manson was a CIA experiment.
What do you mean he was a CIA experiment?
Manson was created. They gave him access to tons and tons of LSD, and he was part of the MK Ultra mind control experiments. They actually, the CIA was trying to spark a race war in the late 60s, and they were trying to use Manson to commit this mayhem and commit these crimes and cause fear and chaos. In fact, the book Chaos by Tom O'Neill, if you want to know about Manson, it's all you need to do is read that book.
This seems a little conspiracy theorist.
It certainly does, because it probably was a conspiracy.
I don't know. Is this public or is this somebody's? Nope. This is nope. You're crazy. What's that guy? What's that guy that you like that just nuts? The Sandy Hook guy.
Oh, no. This is not an Alex Jones thing. Tom O'Neill was a is a respected journalist. He spent 20 years researching the Manson case.
And how did he get proof about the CIA's involvement?
He doesn't have proof of the CIA's involvement, except to say that the people that were directly involved in releasing Manson from prison multiple times were the very same people that had ties to the CIA and were likely CIA agents. They had been involved in CIA activities in Vietnam, and they brought this one guy back. And this is a total digression. It may be a whole other episode, but you should look into Tom O'Neill and his book and what he did. It's all FOIA requests and public record. Essentially, the seminal work on the Manson family was written by the prosecutor in the case. It's called Helter Skelter. And what Tom O'Neill discovered was that most of Helter Skelter was total bullshit. So it's not proven. You know, this is not 100%, but it seems it fits in with the narrative of MK Ultra, which is public knowledge. That's not a made up fake thing. Like, the CIA was doing experiments on human beings to see if they could make super soldiers and control minds, and they were trying to find the next weapon, you know, what they were trying to do is create assassins that couldn't be detected. So the best kind of a spy or the best kind of assassin is a person that doesn't even know he or she is an assassin.
Hmm. I have one counter argument on this.
What's that?
I had to do a paper once, and for whatever reason, I chose the topic. The Amish are communist. I have no idea. I have no idea where I found the topic, but I thought this was really funny and interesting. So then I go and start studying and trying to research this topic. I can't find anything on it. I'm like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever done. There's no corroborating information anywhere. So basically, I took all of this information that was kind of, you know, led me to a story and really convinced in this argument that the Amish are communist and got an A on this paper. And nothing that I ever read supported the fact that they were communist. But when you put enough crazy, shitty facts together, you can make people believe anything you want and get an A on it.
Um, don't take this the wrong way. I'm going to go out on a limb and go ahead and suspect that Tom O'Neill, his research was a little better than your Amish communist research. Since he was being paid, only because he was being paid to do it, only because he was an actual paid journalist, he was making money. It was his job. You did this as a a school paper, so you didn't have as much time to devote to it. And the Amish are definitely not communists.
Let me tell you, if somebody gives me $1 million to spend 20 years to research how, Jeffrey Dahmer is a member of the CIA, I bet I'd figure out how to prove the point with all that money and all that research.
Yeah, you would certainly be able to make a case. Whether how compelling that case is remains to be seen. Tom O'Neill's case is very compelling.
Tom O'Neill is a gifted and talented writer.
He sure is.
Bam.
He sure is. And, much of this research that he's done, anybody could do. He just happened to spend a lot more time and gnaw on it a lot longer than most people did. And the conclusions he reached can't be disproven. So just like a lot of things can't be disproven doesn't mean it's true.
You can't disprove my Amish theory.
I can.
It was
actually
so well collected.
I can disprove it with one statement. The Amish believe in God.
That has nothing to do with communism.
Oh, yes. Well, okay. It does, because
so if you look at the way that they run their communities and their lives, there's a parallel to communism. It was my argument. And my professor decided it was A-worthy.
Yeah. Well, professors think
I fooled her.
Professors also think that biological sex is not real. So you can't judge anything by what professors think. You could find a PhD that'll believe in just about anything.
I do think that there's an interesting conversation to be had about who's educating our children at the university level and how we are, because I don't know that we're very balanced with the information that we deliver to our children.
I noticed that you didn't put education in scare quotes, but I would have.
Well, there's this huge teacher shortage, right? And I just don't understand. I think it's in India, right, where the professor, the teachers they're the most esteemed people in the country.
Yeah.
And they get paid the most, they're the most honored. And here we just pay them piddly amounts of money. And I think this is our future. Like we need to really embrace, this profession and invest in it.
Well, you probably disagree with me, but if you want to maintain if you were a person in power and you wanted to maintain that power, having an educated population is not necessarily conducive to that. You can't have people running around knowing how things actually work. I mean, think about the stuff we don't teach kids. And how old were you before anybody taught you how money worked? And I can tell you, no one that worked for a government ever taught you how money worked.
That's funny. True.
So yeah, there's a whole rabbit hole there too.
A lot of people believe a lot of things.
It's true.
So that's, that's what we do here. We talk about crazy shit.
Yep. And the number of people that believe in lizard people is increasing.
Well, and partially probably because of your influence is my guess.
It's not me. It's
Well, here's to lizard people everywhere. Lizard
congratulations.
people, please subscribe and like and share our podcast.
We are the
because-
preferred podcast of reptoids worldwide.
All right. I'm out.
Peace out. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to You Can Say That Here. Please remember to smash the like and subscribe button.
Well, don't smash it. Just hit it 2, 3,
Mash
12
it.
times.
Mash it. You mash it good. Mash it now.
Share.
Mash it now.
Mash it good. No. All right. See ya.
Yeah.